Right, in this video we'll be taking a look at the rest of tkinter. So last time we looked at the tkinter canvas, which allows you to draw things. The tkinter, I guess, canvas is just one small part of tkinter. Tkinter involves any kind of things that to do with graphical user interface. So we'll be taking a look at displaying buttons, text entry boxes, that kind of thing. Okay, so we'll start off with our usual from tkinter import store. Okay, and then we're going to do the tk thing again. This time we'll call it window. Last time we called it root. The name doesn't matter. Like I said, it's just a title. Window.title equals clicker game. We're gonna make a little clicker game. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is make a little button clicker. We'll call it clicker. So last time we did this with the canvas. So canvas is a kind of tkinter widget. They call them widgets. The widget just refers to any kind of canvas, button, text box, anything like that. So instead of using a canvas object, we'll use a button object, and has brackets, and inside the brackets we're going to include a couple of things. Window, which is basically this instance of basically that this button exists in this version of tk of the tkinter. So with any of the widgets, we're going to include that as the first argument. Next, we want to put some text in the button. Click me. Okay, and next we're going to put a command. A command, you'll recall from the last one, is a function, and so we're gonna define that function in a little bit. But for now, this is just going to be my button. Okay, so I need to display my button on the screen. Wait, before that, I need to do the things at the end, which I almost forgot last time. And so we'll go down to the bottom and say window.geometry 400 like that. Okay, that's done. So we're back to our button. So we want to display our button onto the screen, and so we're going to do that with pack. So we say the name of our variable dot pack brackets, and that will display our thing onto the screen. And if we run it, click is not defined. Okay, no problem. We can quickly just define that. There we go. Click me. So there you go. Now, if we didn't have this clicker.pack, just comment that out for a minute. It wouldn't appear here because the pack is what, I guess the pack is what makes it appear, right? Okay, so we've got our button. What else do we need in a clicker game? Let's put a label on. So this is the label class, the label widget. Again, we start by putting the name of the instance that we want it to print to, or that we want it to exist in. We give it a text. Number of clicks. And we can give it a little font, just like we did last time. In this case, we just say Arial and say size 25, and maybe we want it to be bold. Okay. And so we will use number label dot pack. There we go. Let's try running that. Okay, so we got that text appearing on the screen there, and there's the button. Okay, a couple more things that we want to try. this is entry, so this is a text box basically, and we need to tell it how wide we want the text box to be, and maybe some default text in it. We don't have to have a default text, but might as well. Name equals no name.pack. Okay. Okay, so here's our little text box, 20 screens wide, 20 characters wide. Let's make one more label for the name. Name label equals label. So this is another label. We know how to make those already. Name label dot grid pack. Name label dot pack, and we'll just see if it appears there, and it did appear there. Very good. I have 4 widgets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 things are appearing on the screen. I want to do one more thing here, which is how should we do this? Okay, before we do that, I'm going to change these packs. So pack is fine. You can do different things with pack. For example, you can put side equals right, or side equals left. Things like that. So if we do something like that, we can see that one of them is going to the right and one of them is going to the left. Left, right, okay. You can do top and bottom. But I want a little bit more control over where things go. And so I'm going to set up a little grid system. And to do that, I'm going to do, instead of pack, I'm going to use grid. Now with grid, I need to tell it which column that I want, as well as which row that I want. Okay. So you can imagine a grid. I'm going to lay all these things out. Column 0 is all the things down the left, and then column 1 is the next column over. Column 2 is a column over from that, and then row is, well, you can know what row is going to be. I'm going to also add a little bit of spacing around my stuff so that they aren't. No, let's do that later. Let's just do the columns for now. Okay, so I'm going to replace all the packs with grids. Okay, so let's see, column 0, I want this one to be row 1, this is row 2, this is column 1, row 0, sure. Okay, let's see what that is going to look like. And so now you see I have 3 things in a column here, 1 thing in column 2 right at the top up there. Okay, still looks a little weird, so I'm going to add a little bit of spacing, and so you can experiment with how the spacing goes. Basically, pad Y is going to add vertical spacing. Alright, so I've got all my spacing figured out. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so now things are kind of spaced out a little more, so yeah, it's good. I'm going to add something else here, and I'm going to add something called a frame. So basically, this thing is already a frame. This frame is kind of gridded with columns and rows, but I want to add another frame inside this frame that has its own columns and rows. It's like a nested frame kind of a thing. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to call it radio frame. And this is a widget called frame. And it takes 1 argument, which is the window. So window is kind of the ultimate frame, I guess you can say. Okay, so actually let's put this up here with all the other widgets, and then we're going to grid this same as we did with all the other widgets. Okay, now we have a frame, and so if we show that, you can see, well, nothing, because I didn't define radio, because it's supposed to be radio frame. Okay, let's try that. And you can see exactly nothing has changed because I have a frame here, but it's invisible because there's nothing in my frame. I'm going to put some stuff in there, okay? So, a new kind of widget. This is a radio button. Radio buttons, if you're not familiar, are those little round buttons that can fill in when you click them. Usually they're used to like toggle things on and off. So we're going to make some radio buttons. So this radio button widget, so all my other widgets, if we look up here, all the other widgets, this label widget, the frame widget, the entry widget, the label widget, the button widget, all of them had the first argument of window because that was the frame that they're going to be created in. For my radio button, I want them to be created in this frame right here, the radio frame. And so the first thing I'm going to do is say radio frame. Okay, and then the same as usual, I'll have text equals and whatever I'm going to put there. Okay, what is all this? Okay, text, clear enough. Value equals 1. So the way that these radio buttons work is that all the radio buttons are attached to a variable, which I haven't declared yet. So let's just do that. Radio var. And that's of type int var, which is a special kind of variable only used with radio buttons. Ugh. Yeah, so there we go. Variable equals radio var. So there's my radio var. And then value equals 1. For this particular button R1, my value is going to be 1. I'm going to make another one. That's R2. And that's a click X2. And my value for that is going to be 2. Otherwise, they're exactly the same because I'm using this same variable. And so this variable, radio var, is either going to be 1 or 2, depending on which of these radio buttons has been clicked. That's how that kind of works. And then we'll just grid them. R1.grid. Column equals 0, row equals 0. Column 0, row 0 has already been taken right here, column 0, row 0. But this is column 0, row 0 of this frame, radio frame. Whereas this column 0, row 0 is of this frame, wherever it was created, this frame right here, right? The window frame. So there are different frames. That's why, otherwise, it wouldn't really work to put the same, like, two things into one cell, I guess. And we'll grid the second one. Okay, let's run that and see what it looks like. All of a sudden, we have my radio frame. You can't see the border of it, but this is my radio frame. And within my radio frame, I have gridded two things just like that. Okay. Yeah, I think I gridded this wrong. I want my name is to be beside the entry box. So I'm going to change it around so that the entry box, this is going to get switched with this, and this is going to get switched with this. Okay, so I'm going to change my name is, so that's name label. Name label is going to go column 0, row 0, and then the entry box, which is name, is going to go row 0, column 1, name, row 0, column 1, And then let's see what else needs to change. Clicker, this is going to change to somewhere else. The button, I guess that can go row 2. Yeah, that makes more sense, I think. Let's just take a quick look at that again. My name is, and then I'm going to write my name, number of clicks, click me. Okay, yeah, that looks good. So let's stick with that. Okay, so I'm ready for my clicker game to begin. I'm going to click this thing, and then I'm just going to have a number going up. If you've played clicker games or idle games before, you are very familiar. If you haven't, yeah, maybe you'll like them. I don't know. Okay, so for things to start to happen, we need to write some of these functions. This function right here, def clicked. So when so that comes from the button, click me, command is clicked, so need to put something in here, okay? So first, I'm going to declare myself a variable. I'm going to count the number of clicks that I do, basically. So I'm going to have a counter, and that's going to be equal to 0. And then, so I'm going to declare global counter. Okay, so that means, so usually when we're inside a function like that, we cannot see stuff from outside the function. This variable is from outside the function, so usually we wouldn't be able to see that in here. In fact, when we start to increment counter, it would be using its own local version of that variable. But unless you declare a global counter, it's mostly because we're dealing with tkinter and GUI interface that all the variables have to be global. In regular, when we do our regular programs, we wouldn't usually use the global variables because we would pass things in and out. But you are able to use this global stuff in regular programs, but typically it's not good practice. But for this, we have no choice. So there we go. Let's see. We're going to say a variable called reset, and that's going to be a string, and that string is going to say number clicks plus basically the counter. Okay, so it's going to have this, and we're going to say we're going to change our number label. Number label is right here. My name is. We're going to change that to, maybe I should have made another label. Whatever. Let's just leave it as that for now. We're going to say number label dot config text equals reset. Okay, so this is the same number label as this, but basically we're doing dot config. So this is a method inside the label class. We can basically change it as we need to, and we're gonna add we're gonna change the text. So instead of text equals this, we're gonna set text equals reset, which is this basically. Let's just increase the counter. Let's give that a try. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So every time we're clicking on this, it's running the clicked function, and the click function is adding 1 to counter, and then making this string with the updated counter, and then doing config of number label to basically update, the text of that thing. So that's what's happening every time that we are clicking that thing. Yeah. Okay. Next thing that we want to do is we want to deal with the entry box. So we have this entry box. Right now we're not entering anything into it. Right here, my name is. I want to type my name and have it kind of appear. Maybe here? Yeah. Okay, so to do that, we're gonna call another function, name change, and so we're gonna define that function. Okay. Okay, so what's happening here? So name.get, what it's going to do is go to name, which is this thing, which is the entry box, and it's going to get whatever text that's in there, right? So that's this box, and I've typed something in here. The get function, get bracket bracket, is getting whatever is in here. Okay, so it's going to say my name is, and then whatever's in there. And we're going to do like a label.config, name label.config, and text equals new name. So that should, in theory, my name is Mr. Wu, and I'm going to run that function that calls the other function. So I'm going to click this, and right here, my name is Mr. Wu, and I could change it to something else. And right, see, that will change. Okay, very good. One more thing that I want to do in my clicker game, which is to deal with these radio buttons. I want to click it, either do a 1 click or 2 clicks or whatever I want, right? Yeah, so here's how that works. It's the same, it's basically the same as this get thing. Okay, we're going to do radio var.get. So let's do it right here. If radio var.get equals 2, counter plus equals 2, else counter. Okay, so basically radio var, if you recall, was a variable that I declared right here. It's a variable of type int var, and basically it's this variable is connected to these radio buttons, both of these radio buttons, and depending on which radio button is clicked, it'll be, that variable is either going to take this value or this value. Okay, and so if it takes the value of 2, it means the radio, the second radio R2 was clicked, which means that I'm going to add 2 to my counter, otherwise I'm going to add 1 to my counter. Okay, so if I click 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I click on the 2, now all of a sudden it's going up by 2 every time. Okay, so that is basically our very extremely simple clicker game. There's lots more that you can do with the different widgets. You can add, for example, add images into them. You can add canvases into them. In fact, you can add these kind of widgets, buttons and stuff, into a canvas object. So there's tons of different things that you can do, and I encourage you to look up the documentation if you want further details. This is just kind of scratching the surface of what is possible. But yeah, I mean, basically anything is in fact possible with this tkinter. All right, so I believe, yes, that is all for this lesson. We'll see you in the next one.